If you were a child growing up in the 80s, chances are you watched a little film called Gremlins, a supposedly family-friendly feature produced by Steven Spielberg. Directed by Joe Dante, the man behind schlock films like Piranha and The Howling, Gremlins took on the persona of this cute family picture about a teen boy who comes into possession of these cute furry creatures. But this family-friendly image was a smokescreen to hide its true nature as a black comedy. The main thrust of the plot actually centered on these vicious, green monsters that terrorize the poor inhabitants of this picture-perfect small town in America. With its pitch-black humor and violent sequences involving the mutilation of several gremlins, the film became the target of much scrutiny. Mostly from upset parents, who were expecting another safe family film like E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Nevertheless, it was a huge hit, earning millions upon millions at the box office. Soon after, Warner Brothers gave Joe Dante free rein to make any sequel he wanted. The result? Gremlins 2: The New Batch. Hello, welcome to another Round the Clock Frights video editorial. I'm your host, Joshua Essenberg. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the 1990 follow-up that Joe Dante eventually released, and why it's actually an overlooked 90s treasure. Just a little background, I first watched the sequel at a very young age. Being such a big fan of the first Gremlins movie, I of course became excited at the idea of seeing my favorite mischievous monsters return to the, small screen. I wasn't even born when the film first hit theaters. I remember being a little baffled after the first viewing. If you thought the first film was too cartoonish in nature, well, hold on to your seatbelt because Gremlins 2 cranks up the craziness to 11. Not only does the film break the fourth wall, quite literally at one point, it features numerous bizarre, outlandish sequences including a talking brainy gremlin who belts New York, New York, and an opening title card starring no less than Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. Audiences and critics didn't know what to think of the strange sequel, and thus gave it lukewarm reviews. And most pass it off as yet another subpar sequel to a popular film like RoboCop 2, Beverly Hills Cop 2, and Caddyshack 2. As for myself, it took me several years to fully appreciate the genius that makes this film a gem. First off, the fact that Dante was given complete creative control by the studio is a Hollywood miracle in and of itself. In an industry that has become so possessive of its popular franchises, filmmakers rarely get the opportunity to fully translate their ideas and visions onto the big screen. But Warner Brothers took a gamble and decided to let their filmmaker run wild. Dante himself is a humongous fan of the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, which is evident in many of his feature films, including and especially the 2003 effort Looney Tunes Back in Action. He frequently inserts cartoony, slapstick comedy in his films in an attempt to emulate that timeless Looney Tunes style. Just look at the bar scene in the first Gremlins. Can you not see something like that play out in a zany cartoon from the 60s? So of course, Gremlins 2 plays out like a live-action cartoon. As stated, it's a much more insane film that never takes itself seriously. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not always a good thing when filmmakers are given free rein to make whatever they want. Just look at the film Heaven's Gate, directed by the late Michael Cimino. That film ended up a complete mess. And let's face it, filmmakers often need to be told when they're going too far with their vision. But the reason I think it works well with Gremlins 2 is because the over-the-top slapstick comedy already fits with the overall nature of the Gremlins. They had already been established as silly creatures that live to create chaos while having a good time doing so. If you're going to take movie monsters and make them modern homages to classic cartoons, then you could do no better than the Gremlins, and that's part of the genius of this sequel. Let's take a look at the overall story. It centers on a high-tech office building run by a megalomaniacal businessman played by the great John Glover. It's a fabulous commentary on our obsession with modern technology. In several scenes, we see the ineptitude of this building, my favorite being the employee who gets trapped in a spinning door. Right off the bat, this makes it a perfect target for the Gremlins, who go to town on demolishing the building little by little. It also contributes to some clever commentary. No matter how flashy or high-tech society gets, a destructive force of nature can always show up at any moment to tear it all down. In this case, it's the Gremlins. The movie is also downright fun. Several scenes stand out to me. Gizmo going full-on John Rambo by lighting up a mutated spider gremlin, the New York, New York musical sequence mentioned earlier, and of course, the appearance of Hulk Hogan, telling the Gremlins off. Throw in an appearance by Christopher Lee, best known for playing the diabolical Count Dracula in the Hammer horror films, and you have a recipe for a great time at the movies. Also, come on, it was an ingenious idea to make several different versions of the Gremlins, including the aforementioned Spider Gremlin and the Bat Gremlin. It just adds to the appeal. Now, if you're not a fan of this sort of goofy style, I completely understand, but I know many who are, and this film would give them just what they're looking for. So there you have it. Those are just some of the reasons I find Gremlins 2: The New Batch to be a forgotten gem of the 90s. It's gained a little more popularity in recent years. Key and Peele devoted an entire skit to the film, talking about how bizarre it is. It currently sits at a whopping 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't a horrible score by any means, but personally, I think it deserves way more respect. Thank you so much for joining me in my little discussion of Gremlins 2. Our channel is growing each day, but we would love to have your support as well. Feel free to subscribe if you dare. Sorry. Look for new content weekly, and have a scary day, boils and ghouls.